So by now everybody surely has heard the New York Times story where Trump did not pay taxes for 10 of the last 15 years. He only paid $750 in 2016 and again in 2017. Obviously, nobody cares or gives a shit that the guy gave away everything he made as president. Though I will say, if there's one thing I am going to hit him on, it's where he gave it. He gave it to government bureaucracies. Like, what a waste of money. You should know better, because there's a reason you're not paying your taxes. You're not paying your taxes because you know it gets squandered by bureaucrats. Now, here's the big takeaway for me on this. The big takeaway is Donald Trump in 2005. For all these people saying Trump don't pay no taxes. In 2005, we know this because remember when Rachel Maddow did her big, oh, we're going to get Trump because just then we got this little tax transcript. 2005, and holy shit, he paid $38 million in federal taxes. Dude, wrap your mind around how much goddamn money that is. And to have all of that, to have $38 million, to have that stolen by the government, to be squandered by fucking politicians, it just makes me sick to think about. Well, let's look at that. For all the people that are just harping on this, oh my God, Drew, how can you say that? It's fucking outrageous. Let's look at this for a bit. Trump is 73 years old. If you take that $38 million and you spread that out over the course of his life from 18 to 73, that is 55 years. And if you take just that single tax return, and that's just his federal taxes that he paid. That wasn't all the state taxes he paid while he was doing business in New York, all the payroll taxes, excise tax, all that other shit that the government finds in your fucking pocket that they dig out. If you take just that 1 year of federal taxes, just his federal taxes, over the course of his entire adult life from 18 to 73, that is over $690,000 a year. $690,000 a year spread out over his adult life. From 18 to 73. Imagine paying over $690,000 a year. But you know what? They don't care. None of that matters. Because it plays right into their narrative that the rich don't pay taxes. Because it's the one thing you won't hear. We'll get into that with some of these tweets. But you know, they say this shit about Jeff Bezos too. I remember arguing with somebody once on Twitter about Jeff Bezos and Amazon not paying taxes. And dude, like, Jeff Bezos, like, the one thing I could find when I looked it up was there was one transaction. I didn't have to look any further than this, because in my mind, it's already like, there goes your argument. Because I looked this up, and Jeff Bezos in 2018, I believe, had a single stock exchange that cost him $400 million in taxes. It was $1.8 billion that he made off the stock exchange, had to pay taxes, walked away with $1.4 billion. That is $400 million in a single exchange that he lost. $400 million that went to the government. In 2005 alone, Donald Trump paid more in just his federal taxes than 90% of Americans will pay combined in a lifetime of tax paying. You know what? In fact, that's more than 90% of Americans will pay combined in like 10 or 15 lifetimes of tax paying. That's how much money we're talking about, let alone the amount that Bezos paid in that. But like I said, this fits the progressive or lefty narrative very well, so let's see what Bernie Sanders had to say about this. Trump's tax returns tell us that he is either a very bad businessman or a tax cheat, likely both. But more importantly, it shows how the wealthy, unlike most Americans, are able to avoid paying taxes. The top 1% is responsible for 70% of unpaid taxes. It's time to tax the rich. Okay, what kind of a bubble do you have to be in to think the rich don't pay taxes in this country? Just realistically. If you look at the breakdown, the bottom 46, almost half of Americans pay no taxes whatsoever. And that's not the top half. That's the bottom half. See, the top half, not just the top half, look at the top 20% of income earners in the country. Pay 90% of the federal taxes. The top 20% of income earners pay 90% of the taxes. You know what the top 1% pays? Half. The top 1% alone pays half of all the federal taxes. And the top 1/10 of 1% pays about 20 by themselves. So this idea that the rich don't pay taxes in this country is just not accurate as far as any data that we have goes. Now this whole thing about fair share is just a buzzword. And by the way, we can get into this here in a little bit, but What exactly is your fair share of what someone else earns? Yeah, the answer's zero. Here's another Bernie tweet that's really special. Shock of shocks. Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed billionaire, received a $72.9 million tax refund from the IRS while not paying a nickel in federal income taxes in 10 out of 15 years. Yep, Trump loves corporate socialism for himself, rugged capitalism for everyone else. Well, look, here's where Bernie's right on something. Trump does love corporate socialism. He is a corporatist. The same as Joe Biden, by the way, but Bernie is a nutless loser who won't dare ruffle those feathers. But Trump does love corporate socialism. This, however, is not an example of Trump loving corporate socialism. This is paying the legal minimum you owe the IRS in taxes. So how is this cheating? Because cheating implies that the rules were broken. But what rules? Paying the bare minimum that you owe to the state is what everybody does. Yes, even the progressives who want the government to run and oversee all these elaborate programs and schemes, they pay the bare minimum that they owe. If this is cheating, then this means all of us try our damnedest to cheat on our taxes. And here's the real underlying thing that irks me about all this shit, is that taxation is theft. I'm not going to begrudge anyone who takes action to lessen the amount that gets stolen and wasted by politicians and bureaucrats. The progressive types are going to argue that, you see, right here, this is an example of why we can't have nice things in this country, like universal health care and free college. As if the problem with our government is a revenue problem and not a spending problem. Our government deficit finances most of this shit anyways. Without Medicare for all and tuition-free college, our government has already racked up $27 trillion and constantly growing in debt. And 60 cents of every dollar our government spends right now doesn't even come from taxes. It's conjured into existence by the Federal Reserve, and the bill gets passed down to our grandchildren's generation. Just like Eisenhower passed down the bill for the interstate highway system to all of us. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you're an American taxpayer, your tax dollars are going right now to pay down the debt created by boomers in the 50s. And by the way, Eisenhower didn't build a highway so we could all take Sunday afternoon joyrides or visit the Gap or go to the mall or whatever. He did it so the government could mobilize troops and move nukes around to avoid detection from the commies in Russia. He admired the German highway systems that he saw overseas in World War II. But that's, a side note. The outrage here shouldn't be that Trump paid little to nothing for those years as far as taxes goes. It should be that so many Americans did pay that money. Income tax specifically violates our constitutional rights. This is even if you just go by the own laws the government is supposed to have to operate by, which shows you how useless the Constitution really is. Income tax violates our Fifth Amendment rights to not be coerced into potential self-incrimination. It violates our 14th Amendment rights, which guarantee a right to life, liberty, and property, unless you're convicted of a crime. It compels the citizenry, me and you. It makes us provide unpaid labor for the purposes of the state in filing and seeking a tax return. Income taxes are especially egregious, but taxation in general is just the state threatening you with violence if you resist them seizing your property. So no, I don't begrudge Trump for not having his wealth plundered by the most useless people in our society. So look, if you want to hound him for he was a bad businessman for claiming all these losses, look at all the money he lost, fine. Yeah, that's total fair game to hit him on. I can understand that. Hell, I could probably even get on board with it and say well, that doesn't look too good on your resume now, does it? That you owe almost $100 million in personal debts because of failed business practices? But unless you have something here to show that he actually broke the law, if you're going to just tell me, oh wow, he didn't actually want his money squandered by bureaucrats, so he didn't pay what he didn't legally owe in taxes, who cares? I mean, personally, I wouldn't give these sons of bitches a penny if I didn't think I would be fined, jailed, or shot for not letting them rob me.